Living in Vilnius, Lithuania has its pros and cons. While it's a beautiful city, one major downside is that the airport lacks any regularly scheduled long-haul services. As a result, Lithuania-based travelers will need to connect through another hub airport to access long-distance flights. One airline stepping in to fill the need is Turkish Airlines, which connects the world through its Istanbul hub. In this review, we'll go over the economy class flight experience traveling from Vilnius to Istanbul in a Boeing 737 MAX 8. So, let's get started. First, let's go over some trip background and basics. Skip ahead to get to arriving at the airport and, of course, skip further to get to the in-flight experience. So, this flight was taken on August 30th as flight TK1410. This is a service that is scheduled to depart Vilnius at 12:30 and arrive at New Istanbul Airport at 15:35 local time. Our full journey from Vilnius would take us to Bodrum with a connection in Istanbul. Pricing was fairly high, but given the origin and destination, few single itinerary alternatives existed. Turkish Airlines may operate up to 2 daily flights to Vilnius, but regardless of frequency, the aircraft type connecting the two cities is always a Boeing 737. However, this may vary between a Boeing 737-800-900ER or MAX 8 and presumably MAX 9. The aircraft at the center of this review was a Boeing 737 MAX 8 registered Tango Charlie Lima Charlie uniform. Planespotters.net data indicates that this aircraft is one of the airline's newest MAX 8s, having been delivered in September 2021. Arrival at Vilnius Airport was quick and easy. It's a relatively small city when it comes to population, and its airport is relatively close to the city centre. The airport is well connected to the main bus and train stations via public buses, airport shuttle buses, an infrequent train service, taxis and car-sharing services. For those who don't mind a slightly longer and less comfortable journey by public transit, travellers can pay less than €1 to get to the airport. We obtained our boarding passes the day before, as online check-in opened 24 hours prior to the flight. Without any checked baggage, we entered the airport terminal building and headed straight through to security. Although we weren't able to film the experience, passenger screening seemed fairly standard, requiring passengers to separate liquids and laptops from baggage. With just one checkpoint open, things seemed slow and inefficient, but in reality, we were through security in less than 20 minutes. With the country of Turkey being outside the EU and Schengen zone, we had to clear passport control to get to our gate. At the time we arrived, significantly before our boarding time, there were no lineups. However, another traveller was having some issues with paperwork and just preoccupied one border guard for much longer than usual. Getting through passport control, we reached the few gates reserved for flights outside the EU. With most flights from Vilnius serving destinations within the Schengen area, this non-Schengen section was quite small. Indeed, you'll mainly see flights to London and Istanbul these days, particularly as flights to Moscow and Minsk no longer operate. The departures area of Vilnius Airport is similar to many modern airports, but on a much smaller scale, and the terminal has high ceilings in most places. Large windows also let natural light flood in, while at the same time offering great views of the apron. Vilnius Airport has a few things to make travellers feel comfortable. Wi-Fi is fast with limited registration. Outside all or most toilet facilities, there is a water fountain to fill water bottles. There are a handful of cafes and restaurants offering the basics, although this is more limited in the non-Schengen section, and IQOS lounges in Schengen and non-Schengen areas allow people to use their vape devices, although I'm not sure if cigarettes are allowed in these fully contained rooms. All in all, the airport is small but quite modern and comfortable for those on their way out. Since our travellers in this review didn't check the particular aircraft beforehand, they only realised that they were about to take their first ever flight on a 737 MAX after looking out the window of the terminal and seeing those distinct winglets. Knowing all the details about the 2018 and 2019 crashes caused a brief moment of anxiety, But this, however, was countered by the fact that the aircraft has been in regular service around the world for over a year now, accumulating over 1 million safe flight hours. Do you feel safe flying on a Boeing 737 MAX yet? Let us know by leaving a comment below. Pushing aside the crisis and controversy of the 737 MAX and focusing on its recertification, there was one major positive to flying on this aircraft type. The cabin is nearly brand new. Certainly something to look forward to. Boarding was a relatively quick process, taking place by a jet bridge, and we took our seats at 23A and 23B. Our main reviewer on this trip is about 180 centimeters, just under 6 feet tall, but had no issues with legroom. Preferring to travel with laptop and accessories close by at all times, a somewhat large backpack was stored under the seat in front. Although it certainly ate up most of the available legroom, the bag, a 30-litre Peak Design everyday backpack, fit under the seat without issue. While the seats are somewhat slim, they were comfortable and fitted with highly adjustable headrests. While unable to tilt, these headrests could slide up and down. The side wings of the headrests were adjustable to provide additional side support. Some other small touches and features also worth mentioning include both large, main and smaller seat back pockets, a small metal nub on the side of the forward seat meant for hanging coats and other clothing, and a fairly standard amount of recline. Going back to the seatback pockets, the smaller pockets were a nice touch, allowing easy access and storage of phones. Let's take a brief moment here to look out the window for pushback, taxi and takeoff. The in-flight entertainment was new, fast and modern. The screens have the ability to tilt back and forth, allowing for better viewing for passengers of varying sizes, or when the person in front decides to recline their seat. The system's audio comes via a two-prong audio jack, with Turkish Airlines providing earbuds. However, as we found with these new systems, you can still use your own wired single-prong earphones or earbuds and get sound in both ears. The one other port that passengers will find is a USB-A port for device charging. As for the content available on these systems, it seemed quite robust and diverse. From the latest movies and TV shows to music and games, passengers should be easily entertained for flights short and long. The airline's moving map application was also fun to play around with. When it comes to issues with in-flight entertainment, one thing that we found annoying as passengers was the number of disruptions after starting a movie. Not only is viewing paused for pilot and flight attendant announcements, but each Turkish Airlines flight also seems to have 2 adverts or commercials that run at the start of each flight. One of these is called #HelloTurkey and seems to inform travellers that the country now wants to be referred to as Turkey rather than Turkey. The video following it is a cinematic Morgan Freeman narrated commercial meant to excite travellers with how Turkish Airlines connects the world.
300 million years ago, there was no Africa, Asia, Americas, or Europe. Just one big supercontinent. Pangea.
For a new traveller, these might be interesting to watch. However, for those who have found a good movie to engage with on a 2 or 3 hour flight, these videos eat into some precious viewing time. It gets even more annoying if Istanbul isn't your final destination, because this means you'll have to watch these video adverts twice each way. Food and beverage for this short flight was fantastic, and it's quite clear that the airline does a great job with in-flight meals and catering. Meal service began about 40 minutes into the flight, and 2 teams were assigned to economy class. One team rolled themselves to the front of economy, while the second group began closer to the back. This meant that even at row 23, our meals were quite hot when served. With two options available, our two travellers in this video agreed to get different dishes so that both could be sampled. On this flight, the airline's two economy meal options were pasta with a creamy mushroom sauce and tomatoes, and a beef patty on rice with a bean stew. Meanwhile, items that came standard or were offered with all meals were as follows: an appetizer that appeared to be some sort of eggplant dish with sour cream on top, a dessert, this was a mango mousse topped with chocolate shavings, a warm bread roll, and a choice of beverage, soda, juice, beer or wine. Both main courses tasted great, as did the appetizer and dessert. Utensils were metal, which were also a nice touch. Finally, it's also worth mentioning that after meals were finished and trays cleared, flight attendants came through the cabin with a coffee or tea service. While the entire flight experience was mostly positive, there were a few quirks that we noticed. Close to the end of the flight, a message pops up on the screen notifying passengers that gate and connecting flight information is available. However, checking this section on the system proved that it wasn't quite working as it was supposed to. Some of us at Simple Flying have found this to be the case on other airlines as well, and it seems like something that could be abandoned unless they can get it working properly. Have you ever had this feature work properly on your flight? The moving map information had a quirk as well. This system also includes information on the aircraft. However, in this case, it was clear that the 737 variant listed was incorrect, as you can see here. This particular point is, of course, insignificant and likely won't be noticed by many travellers. All in all, the experience of flying a short international flight in a Turkish Airlines narrow-body aircraft was fantastic, even in economy class. Our flight arrived on time and offloading was quite fast. In our opinion, the Turkish Airlines experience puts many other airlines to shame, particularly European carriers operating longer narrow-body sectors and North American airlines operating from the US to Canada and vice versa. Thus, if you're travelling to Turkey from Europe and ticket prices are similar among other full-service airlines, then it would seem like the clear choice should be Turkish Airlines. Sometime in the next month, we'll also be going over the experience of the second leg of the journey, flying from Istanbul to Bodrum on a Turkish Airlines Boeing 777-300ER. So we hope you'll join us for that as well. Have you flown on a Turkish Airlines 737 MAX yet? Share your own experience by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.